Yes, check in to see whether this complicated instrument, the electronic gizmo, is recording. Yes, it is recording. My greetings to all the wonderful creatures on this planet and those in other solar systems who are watching us via satellite remote relay. This is Atilla Yeşilada presenting for Real Turkey Channel, the only real Turkey channel, broadcast by Turks from Turkey. And as proof, you can see the window behind me, it's snowing. And you can check through the newspapers that in Istanbul it is really snowing right now. One of the most frequent comments I receive under these videos is, "Guy, don't you have anything good to say about your country?" No, unfortunately, I don't. I love this country, its food, the people, the landscape, the beaches, the mountains, everything, but the politics is just so sucky. Every morning you wake up to Friday the 13th, and Freddy is waiting at the side of your bed to scratch your face with those metallic fingers. What am I talking about? Well, actually, if you have any interest in financial markets or in Turkey per se, you would know that currently our currency is going down versus the American dollar like a lead balloon. And there seems to be no bottom to it. Why? Because Mr. Erdogan once again has pulled off this wonderful miracle of making all the mistakes in the playbook, plus invented a few himself to undermine the Turkish economy and markets. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Our title is How Erdogan Killed the Turkish Economy in 10 Days. First of all, let's look at the evidence that Turkish economy is currently on its last legs or on her last breath. I am doing this video on Wednesday around noon. When I started broadcasting, dollar TL exchange rate was about 8, which means about 11% depreciation versus the American dollar since Monday. It could potentially touch 820, 830 in a few days, which would mean 15% devaluation against the American dollar. I don't know if there is any other country which managed to do that in the short span of 2 days, except my brothers and sisters in Argentina, for whom I do cry. It's not only the currency, TL bond yields, credit default swap prices, which measures the risk of Turkey defaulting on its obligations, and the dollar and euro denominated bonds, Turkish Treasury issues abroad, have also their yields soar. In other words, their prices declined. And yesterday, Treasury had to borrow much less than it had planned, simply because there was not enough demand. According to Reuters, I didn't replicate the report here, Turkey may be downgraded 2 notches. That is, it could soon become a junk bond, which means that Turkish Treasury, the corporates, and the banks will have a difficult time borrowing abroad. Well, if you are an economy student or if you have any interest in the economy, you would know that higher interest rates, a slumping currency, and complete, but I'm talking about complete lack of confidence in the Erdogan administration are sufficient reasons to kill the economy. So 2 questions. How did he do it? And most importantly, why? Why would he do that? The question of how, there's a series of events. The world community or the world press focused on 2 events. First, with a midnight decree or executive order on Friday night, Mr. Erdogan fired central bank governor Mr. Naci Abal, who was seen by our foreign investors as the only person who knows what the heck he is doing in this administration. He has gained credibility and the trust of the investors by raising interest rates, taking a very tough stance against inflation. And voila, within the short span of 1 minute, he was gone. Reason, official reason, because he raised interest rates too much. Well, that's what central bank governors do. When inflation is rising, they raise interest rates. I mean, why to sack the guy? Why not shut down the central bank? And the second event that drew widespread condemnation, including my personal condemnation, is Mr. Erdogan unilaterally deciding to pull Turkey out of a treaty colloquially called the Istanbul Convention, because it was signed in Istanbul in 2011. That treaty is a Europe-wide treaty which commits governments to end violence against women. And it is really bad in Turkey. Only yesterday, 6 women were shot, stabbed, or somehow killed by their boyfriends, husbands, families, etc., etc. There is a video that I've done about a month ago, which is about the prejudice against LGBTQI, but unfortunately, it also covers prejudice against Kurds and the inferior status that the Islamists wish to give to women in Turkey. Also, there's another one with Mrs. Sadef Kabash about the difficulties of being a strong, independent woman who's trying to make a living in the journalism world. These two events are well known, but actually the hammer strokes begin much before that. The first mistake was to instruct the Attorney General of Turkey to launch a lawsuit at our Constitutional Court. For Americans, that would be the Supreme Court, to ban pro-Kurdish Rights Party, HDP, completely from politics. They will be eliminated. I mean, all of their politicians will be banned from politics for life. The party's banner will be burned and then salted. Just completely eliminated. The problem is, the reason, because HDP is a front for terrorist organization, PKK. Well, it might be. At least they have contact. There is no doubt about it. But everyone knows that. I mean, it's like, Sinn Féin and IRA. That's a well-known affiliation which in the past had not disturbed Mr. Erdogan. More importantly, HDP has more than 6 million voters. Not all Kurds vote for HDP, and not all HDP voters are Kurds, but Kurds have a special place for HDP in their hearts, and this is an insult to them. This is telling them, we don't want you in politics anymore. This is as bad as the situation of Afro-Americans before the Civil Rights Movement, where they were not officially banned from voting, but it was so difficult most of them didn't. This is what Erdogan wants to do to the Kurds. And then, of course, there was the legislation which guarantees Treasury guaranteed loans to Canal Istanbul, which is a ditch to be digged from Black Sea to Marmara Sea, which is the biggest white elephant in the world, because the ships are not going to use that canal when Bosphorus Straits is free. And the darn thing is going to cost something like 30 billion euros. Of course, nobody would finance this project. So what do? Treasury writes a letter saying, don't worry, you can lend to these companies. If they default, I'll pay for it. In other words, in one day, assuming Canal Istanbul is built, Mr. Erdogan increased our liabilities, our debts or contingent debts, by 30 billion euros. This is just wonderful. And of course, uh, the mistakes continue. I'm sure there will be even more infuriating developments vis-a-vis EU and the United States. For instance, as I speak, French President Macron accused Turkey of planning to meddle in French elections next year. uh, so yeah, Mr. Erdogan really just crosses all the T's and dots all the I's when it comes to annoying the people. Okay, why? Is Mr. Erdogan decoupled from reality? Has he gone too far in his illusions? No, I think he's a pragmatic man. His outlook on life and his philosophy are completely different than us. By us, I mean Turks and other citizens of this planet who are raised in the tradition of Judeo Christianity and the Enlightenment culture. He comes from Islamic philosophy. So he does look at the world differently. But that's not the problem. A lot of Turkish commentators, including those who work for Western think tanks, will tell you this is the final assault on Turkish democracy. Mr. Erdogan and his loyal partner, Mr. Bahçeli, a nationalist leader, are going to eliminate all the vestiges of democracy and, if necessary, even suspend free elections, and Turkey will become a one man, one party rule like Putin's Russia. Nah, I doubt it. I don't think Turks want it. I don't think Islamists want it. And the international condemnation and repercussions will be so hard, Mr. Erdogan will not be able to govern Turkey. So let's leave aside uh, these fantasies and look at very concrete evidence that explains Erdogan's apparently aberrant behavior. First, of course, he's losing badly in the polls. Look here. This is in English, right? Yep. This is without independents being distributed to parties, but AKP, which used to score around 50% of the national vote, is down to 31%. Its partner MHP is down to 7.4%. EIP, this party, EE party, which is really a split off or spin off from MHP, is gathering 10.3. So it is sucking off MHP's votes. And most importantly, roughly 17% of Turkish voters are undecided. The question is, are they really undecided? Or, just like we had experienced in the American presidential elections, are they shy voters who, for one reason or other, don't want to reveal their choices? The statisticians are sinisterly clever people. If they can't get the answer they want, they'll ask it in 10 different ways. And this is the chart I'm going to show is in Turkish, but it's one way to find out in which direction these independents are leaning. This chart asks the question, okay, you are undecided or independent. Which party had you voted in the last general elections, which transpired on 24th of June 2018? That yellow horizontal bar shows to me that 1/4 of undecideds are from AKP. To me, these are the people who actually have decided not to vote for AKP, but because of peer pressure, don't say that. This is highly significant. I mean, let's look at the main opposition party. Only 9.4% of undecideds come from CHP, whereas CHP's vote is, let me show you, whereas CHP's vote is 20%. So there is a striking difference between these seemingly undecideds and their party affiliations. A considerable amount of them are from AKP. And again, this may be a personal opinion, though several pollsters would second me. They are not really undecided. They just don't want to say they're not going to vote for AKP. And that's why Erdogan is doing that. I mean, the lawsuit against the pro-Kurdish party HDP is a gift to MHP, the nationalists who hate the pro-Kurdish parties. The decision to pull out of the convention to defend women against violence is a sacrifice thrown to ultra-Islamists and Turkey's notorious Islamic churches or sects called tariqat. The reason for removing a very decent and capable central bank governor is because Mr. Erdogan wants to print money and lower the interest rates so he can pork barrel as much as he wants to a population. And he needs to do that. Do you know why? Do you know why these people are leaving AKP and migrating either to the camp of undecideds or to other parties? For a very simple reason. Because Turkey's corona epidemic is completely out of control and it's gonna get worse. This is the 7-day moving average of daily new cases. Look at the steepness of this slope. In a few weeks or in a few days, we will test the previous peak of over 30,000 cases. Ladies and gentlemen, only yesterday 1,000 people perished because of COVID-19. Roughly 70% of intensive care units are currently occupied. Under these conditions, most cities and states in the United States, as well as in the EU, announce a complete lockdown until transmission of the virus stops or slows down. Mr. Erdogan will have to do that too. Why is he not doing it? Because he knows if he does, millions of small businesses in service industry will go out of business. Currently, the broad measure of unemployment in Turkey is 30%. It will roughly rise to 40%. And hungry people don't vote for the administration. Where are we going from here? Well, very simple. Erdogan will soon realize his mistakes and do a complete U-turn from current policies, trying to get more money from the West to bail out the economy. Until that day, I won't have much good to say about Turkey. In fact, about Turkish politics. I want to thank everyone for watching this video. Real Turkey channel doesn't get much traffic, but it gets excellent reviews. Please take a look at comments. You will see what I mean, and do check our past videos if you feel inclined to do so. This is Atilla Eşilara saying goodbye from snowy Istanbul on behalf of the Real Turkey channel. Stay healthy.